As we age, the world around us seems to slow down. Yet within us, there's a quiet transformation taking place. The way we relate to people, the way we value our time, and the energy we choose to surround ourselves with, all begin to shift. You might not notice it at first, it's not loud or dramatic, but one day you wake up and realize certain relationships don't feel the same anymore. The conversations feel different, the connection feels distant, and oddly enough, you don't feel sad about it. In fact, you feel lighter. You may find yourself pulling away from people you've known for years, not out of anger or resentment, but out of an inner need for peace. There's no fight, no harsh goodbye, just a gentle space that begins to grow. You no longer feel obligated to show up to every gathering, to return every call, or to explain why you need quiet. And maybe for the first time in your life, that silence feels comforting, even empowering. If this sounds familiar, you're not alone. Many people in their 60s, 70s, and beyond experience this same quiet shift in their relationships. It's something rarely talked about, but deeply felt. The truth is, you're not becoming colder. You're becoming wiser. You're starting to recognize which connections nourish your soul and which ones you've outgrown. And that's not a failure, it's a sign of personal growth. In today's video on Elderly Rise, we'll gently explore the psychological signs that you may be outgrowing certain people in your life, and why that's not only okay, but often necessary. We invite you to reflect, to feel seen, and to embrace the natural evolution of your relationships with grace and self-compassion. Because aging isn't just about letting go, it's about becoming more aligned with who you truly are. Number 1. There was a time in life when you felt the need to explain everything. Why you live the way you do, why you no longer go out as much, why you're not as interested in joining every social event. You wanted people to understand that you hadn't changed out of anger, sadness, or arrogance. Back then, words felt necessary. Being understood seemed important. But slowly, as the years passed and life taught you what truly matters, that urge began to fade. Now you're more at peace in silence. You no longer rush to correct misunderstandings or justify the good intentions behind your decisions. You've come to accept that not everyone will understand you, and that no longer unsettles you. This isn't about withdrawal or coldness. It's a quiet transformation within. You're no longer living for other people's validation, but for your own peace. You realize that time is too precious to spend defending yourself against opinions that don't truly matter. What you feel, what you choose, and how you live each day no longer need to be approved by anyone else. This calm didn't arrive overnight. It came from years of living, healing from old wounds, and learning from relationships. It came from realizing that healthy connections don't demand constant explanations. The people who truly love you, they know who you are, even without you saying a word. And those who don't, perhaps never really tried to understand you at all. There's strength in letting things go unreacted. When you resist the need to defend, explain, or prove yourself, you are choosing peace over ego. That's not weakness. In fact, it's a deep psychological strength, built over decades of learning to understand yourself and letting go of the need for external approval. Younger people often search for their voice through debates, clarifications, and the need to be understood. But with time, you realize your truest voice speaks loudest in quiet confidence. When you truly know who you are, you no longer need to prove it, and that is a kind of freedom only age and wisdom can bring. So if today you feel no desire to explain your life to others, know this: that's not distance, it's growth. You've arrived at a place where peace matters more than people's opinions, and in that place, many of us finally feel like we've come home to ourselves. Number 2. There was a time when small talk felt pleasant. Talking about the weather, dinner plans, or neighborhood gossip seemed enough to pass the time and connect with others. But as the years go by, something starts to shift, quietly and almost without warning. You may begin to feel that these light conversations no longer carry meaning. It's as if you are physically present, but your heart, your mind, is somewhere deeper. Psychologically, this is called a depth preference shift, a natural tendency in older adults to seek emotional and meaningful conversation. Our brains, having experienced so much already, slowly stop being entertained by surface-level talk. Instead, we start to long for substance in our words. Not because we are antisocial, but because our spirit is reaching for something more honest, more real. Maybe you found yourself at a gathering, listening politely, but inside, feeling empty. Not because you don't care, but because your heart wants something richer. You want to talk about childhood memories, about lessons learned, about grief that changed you, or moments of silence that actually meant something. This isn't a sign that you're growing distant. It's a sign that you're growing deeper. There's a kind of weariness that comes from hearing the same shallow topics repeated again and again. You feel as though you've outgrown that kind of talk. It's a quiet transformation of the soul, one that isn't always easy to explain. Sometimes you just smile, nod, and let the conversation move on, while your heart quietly whispers, "I wish we could talk about something that matters." Losing interest in small talk is not something to regret. In fact, it's a beautiful sign that you're more connected to your inner world. You begin to realize that time now is your most precious gift, and you want to spend it connecting in ways that are real, gentle, and true. It's an emotional maturity that values silence even more than noise. Often you find that only a few people are able to meet you in that place. An old friend, a grandchild with a thoughtful soul, or maybe just yourself, sitting quietly in your garden, tea in hand, having a deep conversation with your own thoughts. And that truly is enough. This is the quiet grace of psychological growth after 60 or 70. You no longer measure relationships by how often someone calls or visits, but by how deeply they are able to be with you, even in silence. When small talk begins to feel empty, don't see it as a withdrawal from the world. See it as a return to your truest self. Number 3. As you grow older, you begin to realize that inner peace is far more valuable than simply having people around. In your younger years, you may have felt obligated to maintain a wide circle, co-workers, old friends, even distant acquaintances. But now your vision becomes clearer. Not every presence brings comfort. Not every interaction feeds your soul. And that doesn't make you unkind. It simply means you're growing. You might notice that spending time alone feels more peaceful than being in a crowd that no longer resonates with your spirit. You no longer feel guilty for saying no to gatherings or invitations that feel draining. It's not because you don't care. It's because you've learned that protecting your energy and your sense of calm is an act of self-respect. Peace has become your new filter for deciding who you let close. You start paying attention to the small things. How you feel after someone leaves. Do you feel lighter or more tired? Do your conversations bring clarity or leave you anxious? Without overthinking, your heart and body now intuitively sense what aligns and what needs to be gently released. This stage of life opens the door for deeper listening to your own heart. You no longer want to stay in relationships out of obligation, nostalgia, or fear of being alone. You no longer keep people just because they've been around for a long time. Now, quality matters more than quantity. One sincere conversation means more than 10 shallow ones. Stepping away from noise doesn't make you antisocial. Quite the opposite. It means you're learning to honor life in its purest form. You find joy in the sound of the wind, in quiet afternoons, even in small conversations with yourself. These moments aren't empty. They're full of awareness, full of release. You finally allow yourself to rest from constantly being available to others and start being fully present for yourself. And the most beautiful part? You don't feel loss. You feel relief, because peace doesn't come from the outside. It rises from within. You've decided that not everything that once mattered still needs to matter. You begin to choose what allows your soul to breathe. This is the psychological sign that you've grown. When peace becomes a priority and presence is no longer a requirement. Number 4. As you grow older, there's a quiet truth that begins to settle in. Not everyone will understand you. Not everyone will understand your values, why you've chosen a quieter life, why you don't return calls as quickly, or why you're no longer interested in surface-level conversations. But at this stage of life, you begin to understand and accept that truth. In the past, you may have felt the need to explain yourself, why you've changed, why you don't speak up like you used to, why you prefer solitude. But now you know it's not your job to be understood by everyone. You've lived long enough to realize that true understanding doesn't come from explaining, but from emotional closeness and deep empathy. Psychologically, this is known as emotional individuation, a healthy process where a person begins to see themselves as whole, separate from what others expect of them. It's not selfish. It's a natural step in emotional growth. The more emotionally mature we become, the more comfortable we feel in our identity, even if others don't fully understand it. You begin to realize that not all relationships need to be held on to tightly. Some people were only meant to be with you for a season. They brought lessons, memories, maybe even pain. But that doesn't mean they were meant to stay forever. And more importantly, it doesn't mean you failed. In a world that's always rushing, people often judge what they see on the surface. They don't know the burdens you've carried, the hard decisions you've made, or the quiet nights you've endured alone. And now you no longer feel the need to prove anything. Peace becomes more important than being understood. Many seniors experience something called selective social withdrawal, a psychological tendency to narrow one's social circle with age. It's not a sign of loneliness. It's a form of self-protection. You begin to choose who gets access to your emotional space, because not everyone deserves to be there. Accepting that not everyone will understand you also means you've started to accept yourself more deeply. You no longer depend on outside approval. You begin to see that true happiness comes from within, from inner calm, from genuine connection, and from deep respect for your own journey. There may be parts of your past you've never shared, pains you've never spoken of, or changes that your children or old friends never quite understood. But you've made peace with that, not because you've shut yourself off, but because you've learned. Not everything needs to be explained to be valid. And when you truly accept this, a weight lifts off your shoulders. You're no longer angry when people misunderstand your intentions. You're no longer guilty for choosing to rest instead of attend. You're no longer disappointed when others don't respond the way you hoped, because you know understanding may never come, but peace can still be yours. In the end, accepting that not everyone will understand you is a powerful sign of emotional maturity. You choose peace over explanation. You choose stillness over social approval. And in that quiet, sacred space, you finally hear the most important voice of all, your own. Number 5. As we grow older, we begin to notice that exhaustion doesn't always come from physical activity. There's a different kind of tiredness, quiet, invisible, emotional fatigue that lingers after spending time with someone. Maybe you only sat with them for an hour, but afterward, you feel drained, empty, in need of solitude. It's not a coincidence. It's your body and soul gently signaling that this connection may no longer align with who you become. These draining interactions often involve people who carry negative energy, those who complain constantly, speak poorly of others, or always focus on what's wrong with the world. In the past, maybe you tolerated it. You listened, tried to comfort, maybe even tried to fix. But now you're more aware, more sensitive to what lifts you up and what weighs you down. That's not impatience, it's inner evolution. It's psychological growth. Psychologists call this emotional energy awareness, a deeper recognition of your emotional state. When we were younger, we often forced ourselves to be present for everyone, even at our own expense. Now you've become wiser. You notice the subtle signs: a heavy sigh, a forced smile, a growing desire to leave early. These are not random. They are inner messages saying, "This no longer serves you." You may feel guilty for pulling away from certain people. Some may be lifelong friends, neighbors, even relatives. But let this comfort you. Outgrowing someone doesn't require a dramatic ending. It doesn't need arguments or explanations. It simply requires quiet acceptance that a connection once meaningful now travels a different path. You don't dislike them. You're just choosing peace over obligation. Many seniors experience this shift in silence. They wonder why they suddenly can't handle the same people they used to enjoy. But it's not about being intolerant, it's about inner refinement. Your values have changed. Your emotional bandwidth has shifted. You now understand that your time and energy are precious, and not everyone is meant to journey with you in this next season of life. There's a term in relational psychology called energetic mismatch, when two people no longer resonate with each other's emotional frequency. It's not a judgment, it's a natural progression. Like a song you once loved that no longer fits your mood, some relationships are beautiful memories, but not daily companions. This isn't rejection, it's respectful release. Signs of emotional fatigue are subtle. You feel tense when you see their name pop up. You mentally prepare before meeting them. You need time to recover afterward. These are psychological boundaries forming, your soul's way of saying, protect yourself. And it doesn't mean you're weak. Quite the opposite. It means your inner wisdom is growing stronger. What once brought laughter now stirs anxiety. What once felt familiar now feels distant. Don't blame yourself or them. People come into our lives for a reason, a season, or a lesson, and not all are meant to stay forever. Learning this truth isn't about losing people, it's about gaining clarity. Many of us were raised to believe that being kind means always being available. But now you understand. Kindness also means knowing when to step back. You can still love someone and choose not to spend as much time with them. You can wish them well from afar without constantly holding their emotions on your shoulders. That's not cold. It's healthy love for you and for them. In the end, feeling tired after certain interactions isn't something to ignore. It's your inner compass, guiding you toward people who nourish your spirit and away from those who deplete it. Trust that. Honor that. Because at this stage in life, peace is your greatest wealth, and you have every right to protect it. As the years pass, we begin to understand that life is not just about holding on, it's also about knowing when to let go. And sometimes letting go doesn't come with anger or conflict. It comes quietly, in the form of distance, silence, or a gentle fading of connection. You may find that the people you once talked to every day now feel like distant memories. And while that can stir a sense of sadness, it also brings clarity. You realize that you're no longer the same person you were 10, 20, or 30 years ago. You've grown in wisdom, in patience, in inner peace. And as you grow, not everyone will walk beside you. That's not failure. That's life. It's natural. It's psychological. And most importantly, it's okay. You are allowed to outgrow relationships that no longer align with your spirit. You are allowed to choose solitude over noise, depth over drama, truth over pleasing others. Protecting your peace doesn't make you cold. It means you finally learn to honor your own worth. Not everyone is meant to be part of your later chapters, and that's what makes those who do stay even more precious. So if you felt a quiet shift in your circle lately, trust that it's part of your evolution. You're not becoming distant, you're becoming more you. And in this season of your life, that's a beautiful and powerful thing. As we grow older, life teaches us to hold on to what truly matters. And sometimes that means letting go, quietly, kindly, and without guilt, because peace, purpose, and inner clarity are worth more than approval. If this message spoke to something in your heart, you're not alone. Here on Elderly Rise, we create a space for reflection, understanding, and the deep wisdom that comes with age. So if you're ready to continue growing with grace, to rediscover your strength, and to surround yourself with thoughts that uplift, we invite you to subscribe, share this video with a friend who might need it, and join our growing community of resilient hearts. Because here at Elderly Rise, we don't just age, we rise.